Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of I don't know, what is this show? Chat and Stats with Reck. I've got Shawn Wilson here tonight, and we've got a lot to get into. Shawn, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Real quick, we'll just call it Author's Corner with Reck.
Author's Corner with Reck. Okay, there we go. We've got branding now. Nothing like those snap decisions, right?
Branding's
So,
important, we can change it
yeah, right.
anytime.
Yeah. Well, we're here to talk about Ultimate Level 1 and the journey that the series has been on. There's 10 books out already, so it's one of the longer lit RPG series that's active right now. And Shawn and I are on a couple Discords together. I put out the "Does anyone want to be on a podcast?" call, and I didn't realize, honestly, Shawn, I didn't realize which series you had written because I hadn't picked up the books yet, and Pop was going on and on about Ultimate Level 1 around the same time. So
Love Pop.
yeah, all the love to Pop. Can't ban him, Richie. Sorry. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the backdrop of the book. We're going to get into the book first, and then we're going to talk about the writing journey. So on the book, okay, we've got Max as the main character, and he's going through a coming of age ceremony intent on being a baker. He wants the quiet life. And as it happens, so our main characters, that doesn't quite work out for him. He gets his new skills and is immediately locked up by the administrators of the ceremony. He goes on the run and escapes and starts to discover that his unique ability gives him a different way to earn powers and skills than everybody else. And so you kind of follow him on the run as he's kind of going through this self-discovery of his pretty overpowered ability. So personally, I jumped back and forth between the digital read and the audio, and it's narrated by Jonathan McLean, which was great narration. So yeah. So let's get into it. So Shawn, I'm assuming your name, this is the correct spelling of Shawn, right?
This is the only correct spelling of Shawn. It is correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And how would you like us? Do you prefer to go by Shawn? Somebody comes up to you at a con. Is that your preference?
You can call me anything you want. Shawn, Dad, man. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I'm just happy to be there.
Okay. Well, that makes it easy.
Yeah.
All right. So let's dig in. So our main character Max also goes by Seth as his pseudonym. Is not intending to be the hero. Why do you choose this route? Why choose somebody who wants to be a baker?
Our genre is always fun because somebody always gets hosed by the gods. That's kind of the MO. Oh, you want to be that? No, it's not going to happen. And so often, the characters that we pick are varied. The personalities, and I really wanted to pick somebody that didn't want it at all. Like shunned it, didn't show up to practice. He's skipping out on all the stuff that he's supposed to do. And he just wants to bake because he's got a nice, cute little redheaded that makes really good blueberry muffins. That gets sprinkled throughout the series. And I just wanted to have fun with it and really focus on what happens if you give somebody the worst, hungriest skill in the system to the nicest guy, and just kind of run with it.
Yeah, what I like about that too is you not only do you give him this adventurer skill set, the overpowered kind of lit RPG adventurer skill set, but you also give him Baker, which I think is it's like cruel, right?
It's set up for some fun. I'm definitely not gonna lie. It was funny. People were like, "So he still bakes?" I'm like, occasionally, yeah, chapter, here in this book, yeah, he's still baking.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Makes the most amazing. I think what was it? What did he make in book 1? I can't.
So
I can't remember.
he made carrot red velvet cake and something else.
Yeah,
he made two things. One of it was red velvet, and the
some
other was
like
something else.
cupcakes. I think it was some specialized cupcakes. Yeah.
Yeah.
BJ, I hear you. BJ is a baker as well, and it's like thumbs up to Max being a baker. So
Appreciate it.
yeah. Well, okay, so he gets this unique power opportunity where he doesn't level through experience points exactly. And I must say, as a fellow author, I admire the ingenuity of this and getting to avoid tracking experience for the main character. Was that your thought going into it? Like, I don't want to track
Uh,
experience.
so it's funny because I was like, oh, we want to do experience. We'll just do skills. Oh my god, the list of skills. And then yeah, you because you don't want to make stats worthless, and you don't want to make experience impossible to track. Like, how much is that goblin worth? Well, how much is that worth? And somebody out there with a math degree is like, oh, that doesn't really add up. But I'm like, oh, shout out to someone on Royal Road. You'll never find out because the chapter got taken down because I had a stub. But I was stupid and had a chapter where I said, oh, Max ran this amount of distance in this amount of time. And they pulled out an equation where, well, based on his dexterity and the amount of distance and blah, blah, blah. So his dexterity must be worth this amount of speed. And I'm like, man, you're so there. And I just kind of took that and copy pasted it into my cells and used that for the rest of the series. Because I don't want to track that. I just want to tell the story and, not be bogged down by numbers per se.
I always say it would be nice to have just like a wiki, fan run wiki right out the gate so that we can go see it as reference and pull out the details we need. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. That is fair. I will say that I was sitting here thinking of my questions I was going to ask, and I was thinking about like, well, how do I explain that it's not like experience based. It's not, he has an experience and he gets a skill, but it's not experience based. I mean, you do a good job because he's not just randomly leveling up or randomly getting skills. It is through his kills and theoretical experiences in the world. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And it was fun too because everybody else is still confined by that system, and so they're bound to the experience system. Max like, yeah, it doesn't impact me, but it allowed him also to do other things like cheat and spoiler power level people, because he doesn't take experience, and so there's no level problem there. He can just take anybody into a dungeon and be like, yeah, I'll kill that for you, and you can get all the experience. So it's fun for that.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool too because at first I thought that he was going to be a loner because he's on the run and he's hiding from the administrators and stuff. And this cheat where his party members get his share of the experience is just like he's the ultimate party member, right? Because he's not stealing your experience. Yeah. Well, like I said, there's this counterpart to book one where Max still dreams of being a baker in the quiet life. I like this because it makes him more complex than your just normal hack and slash, glory seeking hero. Are you a baker yourself? Where did the inspiration for the baking come from?
So I do like to bake. I'm not near as good as my wife, who's a much better baker. And I like carbohydrates, so those things kind of go together. But I thought about a lot of skills that we often see in crafting. You know what I mean? In most of our things, oh, he's an armor smith, or oh, she's this, and she makes runes and blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, baking doesn't really provide anything. It's food. Could have been a cook. But I was like, baking just has that. I really could go for a cupcake, or I could go for a muffin, or I could go, for something else, and it adds an element of fun that oh, I'm cooking a steak. Well, well, okay, it's not as
Mhm.
nice.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I haven't read past book one yet.
Okay.
But do you provide some like you have the couple baking moments in book one, and it's pretty detailed, like how he goes about baking and what he's making. Are there recipes? Are you sharing recipes? Are you
There,
test
I know there's a
kitchening?
I know there's a recipe in the book somewhere. I can't remember what book it is. I could have looked that up. And I also do one in book 10. Uh, and so I go into a little bit more detail actually on that one about how to fold in and aerate and
How to
everything
fold the
else. Yeah.
cheese or yeah.
Yeah. It's just you want fluffy muffins that don't have all the berries on the bottom.
Mhm.
Um, so I did. I had fun with it. There's a scene in book 8 or 9. I can't remember which one it is, but muffins become a currency, or cupcakes become a currency. That one's a great one. I just wanted to have fun with the whole baking vibe of it, and it was a good time.
Yeah. So BJ, I think for Lit RPG Con, you could cosplay as Max, with just the baker side maybe
Just
of things, just
shave your
bring
head.
cupcakes. Yeah,
Yeah, wear a wig.
that's right. That's right. So is there ever going to be an ultimate level 1 recipe cookbook for all of the
Man,
fans?
I didn't even think about that, but that would be fun. I could probably put like all 4 of them in there and get away with it. I
Mhm.
think what's cool is my fans. I've had a bunch reach out to me, which I always enjoy. And he's like, "Yeah, my daughter and I, we made muffins after that. Seeing it at Big Buns." And it's like, "Yeah, we made muffins." I was like, "Cool." I'm like, "Yeah, we made cupcakes." I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, because I enjoy being in the kitchen with my kids most of the time, and when we get to cook together. It's always fun when you're scattered around the stove working on something on the island, or we'll do Christmas cookie competitions where we decorate them and then post them on Facebook, and whoever gets the most votes wins a gift card or cash. And so it's always fun doing that. Because everybody goes a different route.
Mhm. Yeah. It's always a good excuse. It's a nice way to have family time to
Mhm.
to hang out with somebody, and it's nice to have that kind of wholesome element in the book too.
Yeah,
Counterbalances all the
killing,
monster slaying, all the murder
killing
hoboing.
all the
Yeah.
murder. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Before I kill you, would you like a cupcake? Because this is the last meal you're gonna get.
that's right. Would you like white chocolate or raspberry tart? Yeah.
That's good
Okay.
stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, the main character in book 1 isn't OP yet, and don't worry, Pop Pop. I haven't read past book 1 yet either, so no spoilers for you. Um, but he's still kind of weak in book 1. Not like super weak, but in the world, he's not overpowered yet. And you definitely set up the framework for where this could go or is going. I'm really curious how you think about when you were planning the arc or not planning the arc of the series, how to balance the challenges and his powers. Like obviously the world has very overpowered people in it that could crush him like a bug early on. But how did you think about that kind of balance when you were planning out the series?
So the series actually came as a need to learn how to plot. I signed a 3-book deal, and I was suddenly like, for my Dragon Rider series, I was like, oh, I've got to write 2 more books that actually go with this. And in a web novel format, you don't think about that. You're like, no, I'm just writing a story and I'm having a great time. And it's
Just
like,
gonna
oh,
keep
what?
writing. I'm gonna write till the
Yeah,
end.
I actually have to make something that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I sat down um, the month before November and October. I had to think what month that was, the one before November. And for the write-a-thon, I was like, I'm going to write a story, but I want to plot it. So I plotted 50 chapters. I mean, everything from every kill he was going to kill, every skill he was going to get, the items he was going to get, And when I sat down to write, it was like, whoa, wow, this is so easy because I already know what I'm doing. Blah 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 blah. But then I was like, how do I plan a story that doesn't bloat? Because the problem is a lot of times you get bloat.
Mhm.
Suddenly it's like, well, there's no tension because the person's too strong. And so I sat down and I said, how can I create an event that allows him to get stronger, but he's still weak? And so I broke it into 3 sets of 3s. So 9 books, and each 3 is like a little mini arc that builds the next, which fulfills the full arc of 1 through 9.
Yeah.
And then of course I'm writing the second big arc right now with book 10 and beyond. But I mean, so I sat down. I actually have a spreadsheet where I tracked the experience, or well, not the experience, but the stats of all the monsters that he would be killing all the way through the 100 tower floors, so I could always project where he was going to be stat wise,
Mhm.
and so I could always know, where he's at in relationship to where everybody else is at, and then see that curve where we kind of hit that balance where suddenly people are stronger, and then suddenly it goes whoop, and it's like, nah, not anymore. And really
Yeah.
that's book 6. Book 6 is when that really starts to swing, and everything like that as we progress to the last part in the next 3.
How have you what's your general philosophy on making sure that you're not you can only threaten a character with death so many times before it's kind of meaningless, right? And you're on book 10, so you've threatened death quite a bit, but like, how do you keep that fresh and threatening, or threaten him with something else?
So, the hard part is, when somebody's so strong that they're not really in danger, you have to give them something to care about that is. And, had Max been alone, which is normally how the black skills go, there's no threat to them because they don't care about anything but themselves.
Yeah.
You get to be that murder hobo that goes out there and you're like, that's not a threat to me. You're gonna do what? I don't care.
Yeah.
Um, but now suddenly when you give, well, this person, I love this person, or these are my friends, or you know, this is my wife, or this is my kid, or you put anything like that, suddenly I now have to protect that, and it creates conflict because at some point I have to sleep. At some point I have to go into the tower. At some point I have to be away. And what happens when I'm away? And that gives you a lot of ability to create that tension and create that drama, but also to build relationships that matter. Like, oh, I don't really care about you. I know this sounds bad because you've only read book one, um, but book nine at the end is really kind of a wrap up of everything from the books. And um, it was one of my favorite but hardest parts because of the way I did what I did. Um, as I reflect on everything that took place through the other eight books, leading up to that moment. And so I want to tell a story also with relationships. I want to tell a story that has meaningful things
Hmm.
beyond, beyond just numbers going up.
Yeah, you did a good job in book one of having the experience with people where it doesn't work out quite the way he's expecting, and then some experiences where it restores some of his faith in humanity. And I thought that that like I said, I was expecting a solo monster stomping fest, and that's not what the book was, which I really appreciated. So yeah. Yeah, I don't know if reading through if my heart's gonna take if you start threatening, the bakers he befriends and the team members who we fall in love with, and all the mere mortals out there. So, for those of you who haven't joined Author's Corner with Reck, we ask audience questions. So if you've got a question, go ahead and pop it into the chat, and we'll make sure it gets asked. And while we're doing that, we're going to go into a little bit of the crafting side of things, of how this works craft wise. But bring me your questions. What do you want to ask Shawn of the correct spelling?
That's right. That's right.
That's right. Okay, so um, I'm personally excited to get to book two and beyond. Looking at Royal Road, when I was doing a little research about you, the first chapter was posted 2 years ago. So
Hmm.
that's 10 books in 2 years, which must have been a wild ride. And you fit a couple other books in there too. You all weren't a part of this, but in our pre-interview chat, Shawn was disclosing just how many words he's written in the last week. So Shawn, how are you keeping up at this pace? Like, holy cow, man.
So I've always typed since I was young, and being 50 now. Seventh grade, I learned I could type instead of writing, and my writing sucks. My writing sucks so bad. And so by the time I hit ninth grade, I could type 65, 70 words a minute on a typewriter, not like a keyboard.
Mhm.
I got data
Which
entry
is extra
jobs.
effort. Typewriters are, for those
Yeah,
of you who are younger,
you gotta really hit
it's a
it.
lot more pressure than our
Yeah.
modern keyboards. Yeah.
Yeah. First time I got a keyboard, I think I killed it because it was like, you know.
Yeah.
But so I got a data entry job, and I mean, I typed well beyond the required minimum until I
Hmm.
found out they paid me the same as the guy that only typed the minimum. And I was like, well, I'm slowing this bad boy down. That's a life lesson to everybody out there.
Hmm.
Um, but I also am weird in the sense that I dream, um, and what I dream, I write. And in fact, book six's final battle, I dreamed three different ways before I finally found the way I wanted it. And, one night, one night, one night, and then I was like, "This is the one I want," and I went with it. And so when I sit down, I literally, it's almost like flow of thought. And we joked about doing dictation. I
Mhm.
can't dictate anything. Like I sit down and I'm like, so Max, he
I haven't given up yet, but like, man,
I'm
yeah, that's
trying, yeah.
exactly how it is. Yeah.
But when I'm sitting here at the keyboard, my brain's just like, and I just go. It's 2,000 to 3,000 words an hour is kind of my average. My best is like over 6 hours, like 3,200 words per hour for 6 hours straight. Um, that was the
Dang.
birth of that was the birth of Loot Breaker.
For those of
Um,
you who are not writers, that's a tough speed to keep up for 6 hours. Yeah, you're gonna be aching.
but, like I had my first 25,000 word day this last Saturday, and
Yeah,
it was cool. But I was sitting there for about 10 hours. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And I loved every minute of it. But um, yeah, 2 years ago it launched. I think it's got like 90,000 views on chapter one because I never took it down. Still, um, it's been an incredible ride, and I've loved every minute of. I'm grateful for. I've got 6 kids, so I'm grateful for the fans that have read it because it pays for college and cars and hospital stuff and more. And so I don't
yeah.
know. I think I may have lost the train of thought of that question.
No, that's okay. That's all right. I mean, it's a crazy crazy pace. So it sounds like some of it is just you type very fast and you have for most of your life, and that's part of it.
Yeah.
Um, it sounds like also that we are when we read your books, we're basically reading what your subconscious your is hallucinating at night.
So it is. So what's funny is, I've learned to plot major points. So, I'm like, I want to get to here, I want to do this, but my brain does the stuff in between.
Mhm.
And it's fun because I can't tell you sometimes what's going to happen, and I'll get there and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's good. But I cry when I write certain scenes. I get the chills when I write certain scenes. I love it when readers are like, dude, I cried here like a baby. I'm like, so did I. So did I.
Yeah.
Because I feel the emotion when I write it. So um, that's kind of how I am. But everybody writes differently.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, so we've got a couple comments here. Pop Pop agrees that typewriters are the devil. I think we could all probably agree to that. Computers much better. Not only are typewriters the devil just from like a hitting the key perspective, but when you make that error, it's a lot harder to yeah, yeah. Brian wants to know or wants you to talk through your writing process. When you first started book one, were you a full-time writer? Were you had a day job? What did that look like? And then what does it look like today?
So I actually resigned my job in January of this year. I had a job. I worked with teenagers, mentoring, counseling, a lot of other stuff. I have 6 kids. I believe all 6 were at home. Maybe one was at college. I had 3 football games a week. Friday, no, I had one in college. Yeah, so Friday, Saturday, let me try that again. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. My daughter does cheer. My son does drumline. We did swim. I mean, I was going 24/7,
Yeah.
but I don't sleep much. I probably sleep 5 hours a night if I'm good. And I brought my laptop everywhere. So, like today, I sent a picture on our Discord. One of my sons had a doctor's appointment, so I'm there with him and I'm typing. Sitting in a pickup line, I was typing. So that's kind of my MO as I type wherever I can, even with a full-time job. As far as everything else, I think the big thing when I create a story is an idea comes. So I'm going to have some fun here with this one, and you can forgive me later when I tell you where it came from. I'm sitting on a plane. I'm flying back from uh, Africa. Did some stuff there. We built a we built a trade school to teach different things. And as I'm flying back, I can't get on Google Docs, and I'm so upset because I can't get on Google Docs. And I'm like, okay, what do I do? And then I look at somebody watching a movie. Might happen to be like Edge of Tomorrow, and I thought, man, that's a cool idea. How do I say, well, what happens if somebody gets stuck in a time loop like that? And so that's where I spent like 3 minutes, sat down, wrote 18,000 words in 6 hours, nonstop, and just went to town. And then I stepped back, and this is the new me, and I analyzed that, and I said, okay, I've got a story I like. Now I need a system that really works and where I want to go with it. And so I just fleshed it out, and I wrote another, 20,000 words or so. Stepped back, looked at it, said, okay, that's good. Planned it, did 30,000 more words. Stepped back to 60,000. And then, I just kept doing that process to make sure I was where I wanted to be, where I needed it to be, which is very much different than Ultimate Level 1 was, where I plotted this giant map of 9
Where everything
books.
was going. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, it changes over time. I write a lot of different stories. I'm not going to tell you how many stories I'm writing right now, which is like 6. Um, and each one's different because my brain works different. My slime story that I just launched yesterday or 2 days ago, I don't know, this weekend, is just a story that allows me to um, have the good feels, except for the 5th chapter, which, everybody's like, what the heck is this? I'm like, yeah, it's okay. It gets better. Um, gets a little dark.
Sometimes you got to twist the knife before it
Yeah,
gets better.
and you do, and
Yeah.
it did. And people were like, "What the heck?" I was like, "Yeah." So, but
Yeah.
I think part of the process is really when you come up with an idea that you like, ask yourself, what does it look like in terms of growth? And so, I'm actually doing a co-write with someone, and they just turned the full book into to me after we kind of do that process: 60,000, 120,000, 180,000 words. And the first thing I said is, "What's our system? What's it look like? What's the starting point, and what's the I'm the biggest baddest person here?" Because then we get to say what's it look like in all these other spots. So I built a system where I showed them exactly the power level at each point. Basically split into fists, and it gave them the ability then to visualize what that power system looked like, and how it was going to work out. And so I like to do that with the system more than anything, especially in our genre, because your system has to work. If it doesn't work and you break it, people are going to know it and they're going to hate it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something that a lot of folks who have not written in lit RPG really underestimate, is how important the system is and how the readers react to your system if it doesn't follow its own rules exactly, or
Yeah,
have
yeah.
reasons. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We've got a few more questions here. Stacy wants to know if you've only written in lit RPG, or have you written, an epic fantasy or something else out there?
So I actually, before I found Royal Road in February, or sorry, of April of 23, 2022, my dad passed away and a friend of mine committed suicide. And I didn't know how to cope with all of that. And I sat down in August and I just wrote. I had a story on my mind, which is weird because I've never written in my life. If you've read any of my books, my English is not very good. My editors don't get paid enough, obviously, to mess with my stuff. And so I wrote 3 books of a 7 books epic fantasy series. And I had some friends reading it, and they're like, "Yeah, this is good. Yeah, it needs some work." But I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I tried to find an agent, and I've got an email box full of rejection letters, like 50 plus rejection letters. Um, but one of my friends was very loving and kept encouraging me. He's like, "Don't give up." And then he was like, "Hey, you should check out Royal Road. You'll love this genre." And I did. And so, that's where I started at the end of April, my genre, my time with Lit RPG. But I still have 3 books that are done of my 7 book series I'd love to finish that are epic fantasy. And my problem is it's like, do I go back and fix them as an epic fantasy, or do I convert them to a lit RPG fantasy? And
Hmm.
it's tough because the 2 genres are very different in terms of demands and what people want. And my world building isn't quite there yet for what we would call epic fantasy, but I can kind of get away with it in our genre just because our genre is a little bit more forgiving. It's getting harder, but it's a little bit more forgiving, and it's more on kind of what the story's about, kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's, when we talk about like the hardness of adding a system into a fantasy or a science fiction book or whatever. On the flip side of that, lit RPG is a little bit more forgiving about other stuff.
Yes. Yes.
you know, yeah, yeah. All right, so we've got a question from Doug. Since you take your laptop everywhere, what do you do for backing up your work? Sounds like you write in the cloud, maybe. Is that?
So I do. I use Google Drive, and then every year, probably should do it more often, but every year I download my Google Drive to a different hard drive. And so I literally have on my computer desk over here a hard drive that I copied everything onto the other day. Um, and it's not as bad as some might think because it's a writing um, Google Drive, and so there's not a lot of the
Other
files
stuff.
there. Yeah, I mean they're real tiny, so you
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
take up as much compared if you're uploading family pictures or stuff like that.
You're not dictating for hours.
As much as I like to talk, if I could unlock that power, I'd be unstoppable.
Right. You're like, screw 25,000 words a day. I'm going to write 100,000 words a day dictating
That's
if
right. That's
only.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So Google Docs is the key, Doug. Yeah. That's
And there's a lot of good programs out there. Some of the people that use Scrivener or a bunch of the others. For me, I just wanted something that I could access on any computer, anywhere, or if I had to steal my kid's Chromebook, it didn't matter. And that's really kind of how it works. I have my main PC I'm sitting in front of, and then I have my laptop, which has been abused for 2 years. I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to have to replace this soon."
yeah.
But you can access it anywhere, except on an
Yeah.
airplane.
Yeah, that makes it. I mean, if you don't have internet, but I mean, you can always upload it after yeah, when you get back
You
online.
You can do what I did too. I mean, when I wrote the first uh, 18,000 words or so of Loop Breaker, I just wrote it in Notepad, like WordPad on my
Hmm.
laptop, which
Yeah,
is great because you can't see the mistakes, and so you just write. You don't
it's
you don't
very
worry
true.
about any
It's like a
mistakes.
typewriter. It's like you're back in your typewriting days. There's no spell check, nothing on there. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Personally, I am an IT guy, so I have like a little online like personal server. So I just work from Scrivener, but it auto backs up over the interwebs. So that's another route you can take too. But there's, I mean, like Jay, I think he writes in Reedsy, which is just
Mhm.
crazy to me that anybody writes in Reed. But I mean, there's a lot of solutions out there
Yeah.
these days. So yeah. Well, we're going to go back to one of my questions. Are you still posting on Royal Road? And what would you say to an author about utilizing Royal Road as a platform for their writing?
So I still am. I mean, Ultimate Level One, Book 11 will start at the end of this month. My Loop Breaker is going to finish book one, and then book two will start up. I've got my Viking stories on it still going. It's going again because I started it up again, and then my slime story is going right now.
Mhm.
Um,
Are those all on
Royal,
Royal Road?
they're on Royal
Yeah,
Road, and I offer Patreon too, but they're all on Royal Road. And I think for our genre, Royal Road is probably one of the coolest things that you can ever experience because if you want to write, at the end of the day, you get to write and you choose the pace at which you're going to put stuff out. Now, again, our readers want content and they want to know you're not going to drop the story. And so you might not get a lot of views until you prove that, hey, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to keep putting content out. I'm the guy that writes a full book and then I drop it so that I can tell people, hey, the book is done. Whether it's edited, it's different. Um, but then the cool part with that process is I wrote a guide on how to launch on Royal Road. And it basically tells you how to hopefully have better success through what we call shout outs, planning those out, engaging other authors and things like that. Because at the end of the day, Royal Road gives you the ability to write and get before people who want what you write, which is much harder if you go to like Wattpad, which is primarily teeny romance
more
between
fanfic.
vampires
Yeah,
and yeah, and so it just kind of depends on what you want. But yeah, Royal Road at 100%. If you're in our genre, this is the place you want to be, especially if you're starting out, because you can get a lot of great feedback.
yeah,
You can meet other authors, and so
yeah. You get to grow your fan base too. There's something kind of crazy about the serial format where you've got people commenting on chapters and like interacting with you, and if you miss that next chapter drop, somebody will be like, "Hey,
so,
where
so
is
and
it?"
let me throw this out here. People are like, I'm just going to take it to Amazon. So if
Hmm.
you don't have a fan base and you take a book to Amazon, good luck.
Yeah,
It might do well. You might hit it just right. You might have advertising that does good. You might post somewhere like Reddit or the Facebook pages, and people pick it up, and Amazon says, "Hey, we're going to run with this." But the truth is that's really hard. But if you go to Royal Road and you build a fan base, then you have a much better chance of success when you go, "Hey guys, I launched on Royal Road or on Amazon. If you don't mind checking it out, people will do that for you. Not all the time, but people will do that for you. It
Yeah.
gives you the ability to have a Patreon, which you don't think much about till the first person signs up, and you're like, "Yes, I'm getting paid." Um,
Yeah.
for writing, and so there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how Patreon, even if you have a few people giving you money, I mean, that money is stuff that you can feed back into ads, or you can, buy lunch once in a while for yourself. It's just it makes a
Buy
difference.
coffee, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So follow your authors on Patreon if you can, even the free version, because it's an easy way to have for authors to communicate to you about their books or what's happening or their podcast
I d-
schedule or
I
whatever.
do
Yeah.
I do giveaways, and I include all the free people, and somebody won it, and I had to ship to like I don't know. I've shipped to the Czech Republic. I've shipped to South Africa. I've shipped to the Netherlands. I don't know how many. I don't know what it is with Australia. There's a lot of people in Australia that read our. I've shipped like three or four
Read our genre.
things out
Yeah.
there. Yeah, but so I mean, I do stuff for the free people. Whenever I do a giveaway, I open it up to everybody. So whether you're paid or you're free, it doesn't matter.
Hmm. Well, there's a comments going back and forth. Apparently, they want you to turn your epic fantasy into a baking fantasy instead. And then Pop
So
Pop is chiming in that he doesn't want that. So
yeah. I do have a begging story that I want to write, that slice of life, but I just gotta get to it. Maybe in three
I
years
mean, you
when
got
I'm
6 books in flight at once, so
yeah,
maybe finish one of the series and then maybe, maybe
maybe.
learn dictation. Dictating a baking series, what could go wrong?
Yeah.
Mm. Well, I think one of the things that always comes up when you hear people writing at the pace that you are is burnout. It's the B word. How do you combat burnout? Has it happened to you? What do you do to prevent that from happening?
So I actually posted a thing on Facebook today, and I posted on a few other channels. My life is stressful, and I'm honest with my patrons. I'm pretty much honest with anybody to a fault sometimes. I have a kid that has seizures. Started 2 years ago. Again, writing paid for all the hospital stuff, which I'm so grateful every day, because it's not cheap to do MRIs and all these tests, like today's.
Mhm.
I was at.
Not in
Um,
America anyway.
Not in America.
Yeah.
My dad passed away, so my mom lives with us now, and that started dementia. Just that side of it, things. My wife had a freak neck surgery, which 12 weeks. You're down,
Dang.
and she was the main breadwinner. So I had a lot of stress, and it was hard to write, and so it was hard to focus. I started doing. I reached out to a psychiatrist, and they gave me some Adderall to help me focus, um, which didn't didn't help the medicine I was on to kind of keep me kind of playing, because of the whole dad and everything, and just stuff. And so then they increased that, then they increased my Adderall, and I actually went crazy this year. I had a mental breakdown in the end of August, and this last year I can't remember a lot of the year. The Adderall actually made me where I was basically like the Hulk, and I was always amped up. And last week, my wife figured out what it was. We talked to my psychiatrist. He took me off it, and I have felt better now than I have in a year. And part of the reason why all that started was, I was stressed. I was having trouble focusing on my family and my writing and my job. It was just tough, and that burnout sent me towards medication, good or bad. Some people do this good with me. It didn't. And all I can say is it's going to happen. I've talked to a lot of authors, Seth Ring. I've talked to Grayson. I've talked to KT here. I mean, I've talked to, or KT Hanna. I've talked to a lot of authors, and they all go through it. And the cool part about our community is we want to support each other. I want to be there when you're struggling and listen. They want to be there when I'm struggling and listen. And if you're not engaged in the community, if you don't find discords, I know Immersive Inc.'s a big discord that pretty much any author that's starting out can join. I know there's other ones out there that are a little bit more selective, but find a group and be real,
Yeah.
and they will help you through those moments, because it does happen. um you know Success sounds great till the next book doesn't succeed.
Yeah.
Battle Through the Nine Realms did not do what I hoped, and it took a few weeks for me to get back into the groove, because I was like, oh gosh, I've spent all this time on that, and it's not doing anything. Poke it with the stick and, like, come on, do something. um and so, yeah, there's a lot of pressure to be successful, um and to write stuff that people are going to enjoy, and it can be overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've tried a number of different things. I think it's important for authors to talk about burnout because you have success or you don't have success, you're writing a lot. I mean, writing is whether you write as fast as you do or you're mortal. Um it's you put a lot of effort into that book that can or cannot hit.
Yeah.
Um and then going back to the keyboard and sitting down again, it's rough. This is not people are I when folks are like, "Oh my gosh, you must have the dream job. You're a writer. You get to," I always laugh, right? Because it's like, yeah, no, I work way harder as a writer than I ever did at my corporate job. So
It's
sounds like,
fulfilling, and it's
yeah,
great. I love conventions. I'll be at Lit RPG Con again this year. I'm going to Comic Con this year. Um, I I love interacting with our people in our genre, and that charges me.
yeah,
It's the greatest story. I've told it probably dozens of times. My first convention was Dragon Con 2 years ago. I was people kind of knew me but didn't know me. I didn't think I was popular, and I'm walking down the street with a shirt with just the cover of my book, and this guy stops me. He's like, "Oh, I love that story." He just starts launching into what he loves about it. And then he pauses like a minute or two, and he's like, "Wait, you're the author?" I'm like,
wait a
"I
second. Yeah.
am, I am." And he's like, "Dude, I love it." So he just starts talking, and then I'm like, "Man, I don't have anything to give you but this sweaty shirt." And he's like, "I'll take it." And so I'm like, okay.
Give
So
him the shirt off your back.
I rip off the sweaty shirt, and we take a picture. He's wearing his Naruto, smock and everything. And somebody comes up after this whole exchange. He's like, "What's your story?" And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "What's your story?" This guy just, like, gushed about it for, like, 6 minutes. I want to know what this is. And so, I mean, moments like that just charge you to do what we do, because um it is hard, and we write about different things, and not every story is going to succeed. We talk about Matt Dinniman, but we only talk about one of Matt Dinniman's series.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about Cradle, but we only talk about one of Will's series. We talk about specific series. We talk about Ultimate Level One. We don't talk about the other series Sean wrote that don't capture
That
people the
part.
same way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I was at Dragon Con a couple years ago too, and they do this mentoring thing where they'll pair you up with another author for 15 minutes, half hour, or whatever. And I ended up with Andrea Stewart, who wrote The Bone Throne. The Bone Throne, I think. I don't know. She was a bestseller, New York Times bestseller at the time. And I was talking to her, and in that conversation, you could hear her be like, "I don't know if my next series is going to be popular. I don't know. And here's like somebody who's made it, a trad published author that's hit New York Times bestseller, and she's sitting there in front of me being like, "Yeah, I kind of, I'm not sure. I'm not sure."
Yeah, and it's true. You
It's
don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well,
hard.
hi Baz. Thanks for joining. We've got a couple new joiners, so thanks for joining. It looks like Jen just wanted to say thank you for talking about your mental health challenges. This is a stressful profession; it needs to be normalized. Um, and BJ is thanking you for glad to hear that you learned that the medications were bad for you personally. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, Yeah.
Everybody's
So.
different. Some people it does great for. Me,
Mhm.
it did not. And so it's a journey. Talk to your medical profession. I'm not a doctor, and I could write one, but he probably wouldn't give good advice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, it's important to know that when you go to a doctor or a therapist or a psychiatrist, whoever you go to, that what you try first might not be the thing. You just whether you need medication or you don't, or you need therapy or you don't, or you need whatever it is or you don't. It's not always something that people get right on the first try. So
I agree.
yeah. So Magnus is saying the space is stressful creatives on top of all the real life stuff. It's healthy to take breaks and slow down. So yeah, maybe you need that post-it note, Shawn, on your bathroom mirror once in a while. You just
That's
finished
right.
100,000 words or so. So um okay. The next question I've got for you, and audience, feel free to add in questions as well. So this is an open dialogue. So if you've got a question for Shawn, put it in the chat. Um, my next question is so you've written a couple different series. Obviously, Ultimate Level 1 is 10 books now. But which book in the series was the hardest to write? Just from like, is book 1 the hardest? Is book 2 the hardest? Is book 10 the hardest? Walk us through that.
I think book 5 was really the hardest. So when you're a new author, you don't know what you don't know, and you just write, and you hope what you're doing is right, and it's usually not. My first series on Royal Road was a goblin isekai story I made up with he's now 16, about to be 17-year-old son, and all I did was tell. And so some authors were really good about saying, "Hey, you need to learn how to show." And I was like, "What in the world's that?" And so they showed me how to show. So book 5 was where I kind of realized writing Ultimate Level 1, I was not as good as I was hoping I was. And then it was like, oh, wait, I'm writing a story, but it feels like we're getting bogged down in the tower. And I don't want to bog people down where they hate it, because I'm like, oh, like, how do I keep this, like, 100 floors of the tower? And so it was like, it
Yay,
was
we're
really
on
hard.
58.
Yeah. Yeah. Another tower with a bunch of people to kill. Yay. We're not getting any
Yeah.
experience. Still level 1, you know. And so I was like, oh my gosh, how do I do it? So it was really hard. And then what I was really waiting for was book 6. Like book 6, I was like, I just got to get to book 6. I just got to get to book 6. And a lot of people comment. They say, "Man, book 6 was your best book," and I was like, "Yes," because
So much.
I thought it was too. And so book 5 was probably the hardest book to write, because I was getting into that um, problem as a writer, where you're like 5 books in, you're like, "Oh my god, I hope this doesn't suck," and people are now buying the series, and oh, I'm gonna, I don't want to write trash, and um, stuff like that.
Yeah. Did you ever question whether, I mean, because at that point you were still planning on at least 9 books. Did you ever question, like, can I sustain this? Do I have 9
So
books in me?
no, I always, it's funny if you talk to Silky Myth from Mango Media, Beneath the Dragon Eye Moon author. Um, I've always said 9. I just knew 9 was the easiest way for me to write what I wanted to write. And then I knew that if people wanted the series, I didn't expect it, but if people wanted the series, I had what came after, which I've highlighted throughout books 1 through 9 of what comes next. So I always knew it was 9 books. I knew that's how it would work. And I've used a lot of different writing styles. Book 6 is a lot of action. Book
Yeah.
7 is a lot more slice of life, because we're getting towards the end, and there's a lot of world stuff, and I got to get in there. And people are like, "Dude, where's the action?" I'm like, "It's coming. You just give me a
Just be
hundred thousand
patient.
words.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on, man. I just give you a whole book of action. Just
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's one of those things where you have to um, figure out what people are there for, and still write what you want to write, and hopefully that all lines up.
hmm Well, we've got a few more fan questions. So for Battle, Richie wants to know, why did you go for a Viking setting?
So when I actually talked about Battle Through the Nine Realms, I have a Greek mythology story and I have battled through the 9 realms. And I'm talking with Silky, and I'm like, okay, man, like I could do this or I could do this. And he's
Mhm.
like, well, I would do this. And I said, okay. Um, I like Vikings. I love both the Viking and the Greek pantheon. I love the stories behind it, the opportunities. I mean, I've got a Greek story in here and some notes in a folder, because there's so much that you can draw from, and there's so many different ways you can take it. And I've read some great Viking lit RPGs, and I think at the end of the day, I just wanted to tell again another story of somebody that ends up where they don't want to be, and they're trying to find a way to, overcome what would be impossible odds, and in that also get something they never got in their previous life. And I don't want to spoil, obviously,
Yeah.
anything, but book two, the main character is finally like, I could never have this in my first life, but I can have it now. And it's just one of those moments where we don't think about what, sometimes people in the military give up.
Yeah. So it sounds like the next series is going to be a cozy baking slice of life in Greece.
Yeah. We could do.
Maybe.
Wait,
Yeah.
didn't they do that one? Like, it's not like my big fat Greek wedding. Is that what
Oh
that is?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess that is. All right. Idea taken. Got to go a different direction. All right. Well, next question, and I think this one is great. So thanks for that question, Baz. What was something that that you struggled most to put in words over the years in your series?
I think the hardest thing for me has been, um, relationships that matter and that allow people to feel like they matter. I've adopted 2 kids. I've fostered kids. I've worked with teens. I've seen a lot of stuff. I've been all over the world. I mean, we've drilled wells. We've built schools and chicken houses and medical clinics, and I've seen what life that I have compared to what life other people have, and I know, again, how blessed I am, even with all the stuff going on in my life. And so often we forget what it's like, and what other people are feeling. And so, like, I had a grown man, 40-year-old man, approach me. He's like, this part in your Dragon series made me break down and cry. And my wife was like, "What's wrong?" He's like, "Because this is exactly what it was like when I realized." Um, the man who raised me, my stepfather, was really more of a dad than my dad ever was. And for so long, I'd resented him and never allowed myself to love or appreciate him. And then one day I did. And he said, and that just reminded me of that moment. And, um, I like to show that there is goodness and a chance in a lot of people. And I want people to, at the end of the day, be like, man, I feel better, because I can see that love, or I can see that relationship, or I can see this, you know, bond. I laugh. People were like, "Oh, they joke around too much." Like, there's too many hairy dwarf balls. And I'm like, "Have you ever hung out with friends?" I'm like, you spend a week with somebody camping, you guys are going to say the same thing over and over because you got nothing else to say, and you're
Hmm.
going to do stupid stuff. And so, like, there's just an element of what life's really like, spending it with others. So I think that's the hard thing I try to put into words.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Trying to give people what those meaningful relationships sound like and feel like and
Yeah.
with each other. I love that. Yeah. All right. Looks like we've had a few more people join us. So welcome, Gary. Hey, everybody. Last call for some audience questions. If you've got some questions for Shawn, go ahead and put them out there. I'm going to ask a few more myself, and then we'll start wrapping up because we're getting close to the hour. It's crazy how time flies. Um, well, I think everybody needs to be asked: are you a plotter or a pantser? It sounds like you did a lot of plotting for Ultimate Level 1, but is that naturally what you gravitate towards?
No, I'm pretty much a pantser by heart. The majority of what I've done is pants, and again, like I mentioned, I plot now a little bit of waypoints. I build some stuff. I get the system in place, and then from there, I pants my butt off,
Hmm.
and I can work it both ways, but my mind likes the freedom uh, to run in the direction it feels like it wants to go.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you did you struggle keeping the plot that you had plotted out for Ultimate Level 1? I mean, you said you did quite a bit of plotting at that point. Does
Yeah.
that like slow you down, or is that
No, but I think part of the cool part is, as a writer, you have to find a way sometimes to say, "Hey, this little side jaunt here, maybe I didn't plan this, but it's worth it." And I've done that. I've written things into a story that I didn't plan, but I knew I needed to put it there, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's gold." And people would be like, "Oh, I love that scene there." I'm like, oh. And sometimes
yes.
you just know it, and you have to be willing to say, "Okay." And those are those moments where I think you really get to live, uh, and do cool stuff. Like,
Yeah.
and I know this sounds hilarious, and people will kind of maybe laugh when you get to it. But when cupcakes become the currency, I hadn't originally designed it to be the currency, but it just felt right. And so I went with it. And people were like, "Oh my God, I love that part." And I was like, "Me too, me too." And
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah. No, I love it. Well, we've got a question about Battle of Nine Realms. So that it sounds like that's one of your other series that's going on. So you've got Ultimate Level 1, you've got Battle of Nine Realms, and four other
So,
ones. There's a slime series. What are all your series that you've got rattling around right now?
all right. So, Dawn of the Last Dragon Riders, it's complete. It's 3 books. I grew up reading Anne McCaffrey. Just kind of love that stuff. And so,
I love Anne
uh,
McCaffrey. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And people call it a little bit like Aragorn. I've never read Aragorn. Aragon. I don't know. However you say it.
Yeah. Something. Yeah.
Yeah. I never read it, but they like, yeah, I liked it a little bit more than I'm like, cool. So I've never read it, but it's finished. I have Ultimate Level 1, Battle Through the Nine Realms. I have The Awakening of Aaron, which is a slime story I just launched. I have my Loop Breaker, which book 1 is done. The edits are done. It's in the process for audio. My brain just went out of me. I have that brain fart as an author too.
Mhm.
I have the Ascension games that I co-wrote with a dad. It's kind of a cool story, in another country, just trying to help him kind of support his family. Um, I have, 2 other uh, co-writes that I'm actively working on. A third that I'm trying to get back onto. Let's see. I'm writing I've got 2 stories that I'm cooking. I think they're both about 7 to 10 chapters, which means they're probably 20 to 30,000 words. Um, that I think will definitely be some of my bigger hits, coming out whenever I finish them, because of the content. So I've got a bunch of stuff that, um, I'm just slowly working on, and I'm enjoying it. It's like Loop Breaker took me a year. I signed the contract back in like April and May of last year, and it didn't come out till November of this year because
Yeah.
I took time.
Are you associated with one of the presses? Which one?
So Mango Media has Ultimate Level 1, as well as Battle Through the Nine Realms, and they'll do. My daughter and I wrote a book that should be hopefully finished soon, and that'll be out, which is a cool story. Shout out to Grayson Sinclair, amazing author, great developmental editor, helping with that one a ton. I also have through Podium, they do the audio for Ultimate Level 1 for books 1 through 6,
Hmm.
and they do the Last Dragon Rider series. And then Royal Guard does my audio for some of my books, Battle Through the Nine Realms, the remaining stuff for Ultimate Level 1. Um, I have a webtoon for Ultimate Level 1 that is with Moonquill. And so that's going on too. I think that's
Yeah.
all of it.
Cat fingers in a few pots there.
But
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw this out there for any author that might be listening. You don't know what you don't know, and one of the greatest ways to learn how to best take care of yourself in the author world is to talk with others. And we will tell you our experiences with every publisher that we've had. We will say, I'm not a lawyer, but I'll look at your contract if you want.
Mhm.
We'll tell you the best places to go for the best rates if we know certain things. And again, at the end of the day, we want you to succeed, or at least I do.
Yeah.
So
We've said it a few times on the podcast with almost every author I've run into, about how welcoming the lit RPG community is to questions, experiences, all of the things. People are very generous with their knowledge, so don't be afraid to ask. Yeah. All right, I've got one last author question for you, and then we'll get into the where we're going to find you and what's next. Um, you've done a lot of writing, in Ultimate Level One. You finished or you started, early. You've done a lot of writing since that first book, right? Throughout the
yeah,
series. With everything that you've learned as a writer, what would be the thing that if you could like magically make like you're writing Ultimate Level One again and you'd make changes, like would you do more world building? Would you fold in more relationships? Like what would be the thing that you would change about your earlier writing?
I would definitely get a better editing pass. Because because we really raced it. I mean, like I finished the book end of November and it came out in February, and the next one came out 2 months. I mean, I was blowing. I have an email from Podium saying you're too fast. Stop sending us stuff. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I was doing a lot. I would definitely say I'd slow down and I would listen to my patrons and the people on Royal Road about the story. You get all these comments, and sure, some of them are negative, and some are like, "Oh, you're an idiot," or "This doesn't make sense." But if you hear that consistently enough on something, you need to ask yourself, "What is it that doesn't make sense?" And some of that could fix those early problems. My problem was I was 4 books in, and they were looking at the end of book one, and I'm like, man, I can't go back and fix that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Speed's great, because we love content, but if you're not spot on, man, it is so hard to make a change or to fix something uh, that late in the game. And so, it's. I wish I could have. Not that it would have helped, because if I don't think if I released every 2 months, it kind of helped. But if I could have taken that world and added about 40,000 words to book one, I could have shown so much more.
Hmm.
I could have made it better. But again, I didn't know what I didn't know. Um, but yeah, I think world building's phenomenal. I think characters have a lot more to share. There's just a lot more in there if you get the ability just to kind of massage it a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, and case in point, I wrote Battle Through the Nine Realms book one in 16 days. My brain wouldn't let me write anything else. 120,000 words. And I was like, yeah, I'm done. And I handed it to my development editor. I said, tell me how great I am. And he came back. He's like, what the hell is this? So what do
This
you mean?
looks like something you've written in 16 days.
Yeah. He's like, what do you, what? He's like, where's the world building? I'm like, world building. It's gas, nothing but gas. Like it's coming, 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 coming. He's like, yeah, that's great, but I'm going to need more. And so
Yeah.
I had to step back and I had to go back through it. And I think I added like 20,000 words of world building. I had to show you. Oh yeah, yeah. Those things called gods. They might have a temple. and, I mean, it was the stuff that you think in your head. You're like, oh yeah, I know it's there, but on paper you don't put it. And everybody's like, it's like the Wendy's commercial. Where's the beef? You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I think that's one of those things we forget sometimes. Is you need a little bit of world building. You need a little bit more salt to make it more palatable.
Hmm. Absolutely. All right. Well, where are we going to see you in 2026? You said you like going to cons. What cons are you going to be at?
So right now I'm scheduled for Lit RPG Con. I'm scheduled for, not that we're gonna have a presence here, but I'm gonna the Comic Con in San Diego. Planning on being at Dragon Con next year. I was supposed to go this year. Obviously, the whole mental break kind of stopped that.
Yeah.
But so I'm planning on going back to Dragon Con. Right now, that's
Should
probably
people
my.
ask for the shirt off your back at Dragon Con?
Yeah, yeah. I always, so I know this is not me, doing like my boogie fever or anything, but I always wear a white undershirt.
Okay.
It's just the way I
In
phrase
my mental image, I was thinking like, did you just walk around shirtless for the rest of Dragon?
shirtless. Yeah. I'm a 48-year-old man. It would
whole different fandom there.
somebody would have thought I was an anime something because a lot of other people walk around shirtless.
You just the dungeon
So,
daddy,
yeah, it's downtown Atlanta. They don't care.
No.
But yeah, I mean, I actually gave away all 5 of my shirts that I wore once people found out they could have my shirts because I had a shirt for every day. And so, yeah, you can, if I've got a shirt on, you can have it, provided it's not like this, if it's one of my other ones. But
Yeah.
I would get it off my bag gladly because
Yeah.
that's just kind of, it's fun.
Well, that's awesome. All right. So you said San Diego Con, Dragon Con,
And Lit
Lit
RPG.
RPG Con. Okay. So those are 3. Do you do signings or anything at local bookstores or anything like that?
I don't do. I mean, no one's asked me. I would happy to. I signed some at Lit RPG Con. I am happy to sign for anybody that has a book. If they
Mhm.
want it. Watch my Patreon. Watch my Facebook page. Author Shawn Wilson. Um, I give away stuff. I shipped out 15 sets of signed books 1 through 9 all over the world.
Nice.
And I mean, just because, hey, that's a milestone. So I was happy and wanted to do it. So yeah, I gladly sign stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so definitely bring books, or can we buy? Are you selling them at like Lit RPG Con? Do you know if there's?
I don't actually sell them. I
Mhm.
may, if I'm looking at it, David North, a great author. I mean, I won't even get into the list of great authors, but he showed me how I could ship books there to give away. So I'm like, oh, cool. So next year I'm hoping to have books there, and I would just give them away. Like I wouldn't sell them. I would just be like, here's your book. Here's your book. Because at the end of the day, I've got a shelf in my office here where I've got all these books, and some are signed, and I love it just as much as the next person.
Mhm. Yeah, it is kind of cool. I think I came home with maybe 20 books signed from Lit RPG. Thankfully I was driving distance, so I could just put them in my trunk, and I didn't have to ship them home like some of the people on the chat right now.
But
But
FedEx is right next door, and I
that's
think
true.
like
Yeah, I mean
if it's
it
under
was
30
like
bucks,
30, 60
yeah,
bucks.
it's like 30 bucks if it's under 30 pounds or something.
Yeah, yep. All right. Okay, so you got 3 cons next year. What's the best way to find you online? I know you're active on Discord a lot, but Discord, Patreon, Facebook, where you at?
So Facebook, author Shawn Wilson. If you go to pretty much any of the Lit RPG pages, you can pretty much at me or go to my author page, which is author Shawn Wilson. My actual page is ShawnWilsonWrites.com. SHAWN. We spell it the
The
right way.
correct spelling.
The
Yeah.
correct spelling. Yeah. Don't
Hmm.
listen to those other halls and people like that.
Yeah.
Oswald. Man. I have a Patreon again. It's author Shawn Wilson. That's probably the funniest thing was somebody signed up for my Patreon the other day and they're like, holy crap, I get 4 stories for the price of like one. I'm like, every story I'm writing, man, if it's got extra chapters, it's here. And so it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. I asked this of every author. If you could add one book, we're gonna make Pop Pop have a mental breakdown, but if you could add one book to Pop Pop's TBR, what would that book be?
Oh, that's a tough one. So the problem is I'm reading like 3 books. That's kind of how my brain works. I
Hmm.
love 100
Well, it could be
Mythos.
a
I'm reading.
historic book too that you read last
Yeah.
year.
Well, I'm reading Jack Reacher right now, but that's another story because I'm working on a thriller. Um, I love 100 Mythos. I'm reading this Mage one right now. I love uh, I can't remember what it's called now. Oh, Sean Oswald's book. I'm brain farting here. Gosh,
Multiverse. Welcome to the multiverse.
the multiverse is
Or
good now, but it's his other one. It's his new one.
Apocalypse Breaker, Watcher's
It just came out.
Fate, Life in
I would
Exile.
probably say those 2 are great. I like Sean Oswald's because it's a new. I'm gonna have to look it up because I'm old. That's how it works. Amazon. Imagine what we did before the internet.
Yeah, before the internet, we actually remembered things. I think is
Oh
how it
man, I
goes.
used to.
If
I used to
only
know
I could
phone.
just Google where my car keys are.
I used to know
I'd be-
phone numbers. Oh, so Magic Eater. Magic Eater was so cool because of the system that he created. Hadn't ever thought about writing magic the way he wrote that. Um, you know, I'm a huge fan of people that write stuff that I don't see. Skill Eater, Skill Eater is a little darker, but I liked it because it's the same thing as Ultimate Level 1, but darker. And it's like, yeah, if I could embrace the dark side, how
Mhm.
much fun would that be? I'm actually working on a dark book, but we won't talk about it. So
2025 has driven a lot of people to write a dark book on the side. So yeah.
yes, that's how mine started. Yes,
Mhm,
yes.
mhm. All right, so Magic Eater, I think, is the consensus.
Yeah,
Pop, pop.
yeah.
You got to get
Magic
started.
Eater.
Do you have any upcoming dates for books or, a
So
new
the
book
eight,
release or new audio release that we need to?
yeah, the 18th, book 9 of Ultimate Level 1. Actually, yeah, book 9 hits for the audio. And then book 10 just finished recording last week. So hopefully that'll hit. I don't know if it'll hit the end of December. We were trying, but it may be the first part of January. And I don't think I have anything else coming out till next year. Yeah, I don't think I have anything coming out till next year.
Okay, so Ultimate Level 1,
One book, book 9
9,
on the 18th, the audio.
18th of November.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right, that'll be great. I think that's going to be my Christmas listen. My Christmas series listen is to get caught up in Ultimate Level 1. So be good.
I will say that Jonathan did a great job. I mean, like,
Mhm.
it's always fun to listen to it. And there's a little bonus at the end of book 9 for those that get to it.
Dun dun dun. Yeah,
Well, you
excellent.
can always look and see that there's 2 narrators' voices listed on book 9.
Ooh, that'll be fun. Yeah. No, it's exciting. All right, and book 9 is the one that's coming out here in November, so it gives everybody a
Mhm.
reason to race through them. Well, thank you so much, Shawn, for joining.
Thank you.
It's been great talking and getting to know you and your process and your story and how many words you've written in the last couple of years is just incredible. So inspiration. But yeah, everybody pick up Ultimate Level 1 and you will see me online next Tuesday with Pop Pop. So we're gonna have the Reck and Pop Pop show. So you'll check out Pop Pop's YouTube channel. We'll be live talking about our latest reads, which it's gonna include System Apocalypse for me, and I think I'm gonna bite the bullet and read Discount Dan. So if you want to
Discount Dan. Discount
hear me talk
Dan.
about Discount Dan, tune in next
I've got that.
Tuesday.
I got that in paper book, man. Yeah.
Yeah,
Discount
yeah,
Dan.
I think I've got mine back here too. So yeah, speed read Discount Dan. So all right, thanks everybody. Thanks for joining us. Have a good rest of your evening.